G'day again. Today I'm going to have a look at the SEIKO air pressure water resistance tester, which is the S-451A. These come up on eBay occasionally and people sort of wonder if they're any good or not. I'll give you the conclusion first. I don't think it's a good machine, but we'll explain some reasons for that, and I'm going to try and do this in one shot, so we're not doing any editing or anything like that. And I'm also using the camera microphone, so hopefully it should be clear enough for you. And yeah, we'll get down to why I don't think this machine's a good machine. So just having a look at the front of the machine, it looks well made. So you've got the lights there for a pass and a fail. It gives you some instructions there, which I'll go through. We'll run it and show you why it does that. When to open and close the door and put the watch in. It's got two modes, so it's got perspiration resistant and water resistant. There's your start button, and then it's got the testing buttons there, which run while the machine's on. So if we just have a look over here, that's the pressure there. So you'll see on a perspiration resistance test, it doesn't even do 1 bar, and on a water resistance it's a smidge under 3. So that's what you're looking at there. So the front of the machine, you've got this fairly heavy duty lever here, which opens the chamber, and that's the chamber there. So I'll just try and zoom in on that a bit so you can see what's in there. And I'm actually going to take the shroud off of the sensor so you can see how it works. But basically, there you go. So you can see that there. So this here adjusts where the table sits. See that? The sensor just sits there. You can just see the nipple for it. And I'll show you how a watch goes in. So they go in like that. And then you adjust the table so it sits up on the sensor. Now when I'm doing it, I do it up the top and then back it off just a tiny amount, and then we close it like that. So just zoom out again here. There we go. So the other part of the machine as well, if we're just going to go to the right here, that's the compressor. The compressor just comes in a yellow box, but I believe they did change that depending on the year. And as for when these were made, I think they were in the early 80s. I could be wrong there, but as far as I'm aware, that's when they made them. Now what I'll do is I'm just going to take the watch out and I'm just going to start the machine up. So now it's on. I'll just give it a sec just to feel the pressure and stuff like that. So the first watch I'm going to do in there, 6139 6000. As you can probably just see there. So I'm going to put that in. So the light there is telling me to put the watch in. So that's in, the chamber's closed, and then we're going to start it. You can see there it hasn't even got all the way to where it's supposed to. It's supposed to go a little bit further over. It's meant to go to about where the 3 bar is. So we're testing it like 2.5 bar. Or atmospheres, or whatever you want to call it. And now what it does now is it tries to maintain pressure for a while. And what the sensor is actually looking for is it's looking for a drop on the crystal. So it's looking for the crystal to compress in, which when you think about the theory of how these things work, which is they pressurize the chamber there with air, that should cause the the crystal to press in, because the crystal is in a rubber seal. So we see there it's given a not acceptable result, which I know is total garbage for that watch, because I know that will pass. So let's try one of these guys here. So this has just had the seals changed in it, and I know that it will pass a pressure test. So there we go. It's up on the sensor. And we'll give this guy a go. Now I've just had to move the compressor down to the floor, because as you would have heard, it just rattled way too much. So there we go there. Watching that go up. Oh, this time it went to where it's supposed to, so that's good. So one of the issues with this machine is it doesn't always pressurize to the point where it's supposed to go to. And now it's just doing the test now. Now just bear in mind, this is a diver watch that is guaranteed to pass a test. I mean, the seals in it are massive, they're brand new, I've just replaced them today, so there's no reason why it should fail whatsoever. So now we're just waiting for the result. And I bet this is going to fail. Waiting. We get a pass on that one. That's great. Alright, so we'll pull that out. So that's an interesting result. I didn't expect that. Now we'll just try, here's one that I know will fail. This is an SKX diver. So we'll put that one in. Let's make sure I put a seal on the back, which I'm certain I have, but I'll just double check. So I just did the seals in this as well. So just bear with me 1 sec and I'll just check that out. Yep, that's definitely got a seal in it. And then we'll put that in there. Now it doesn't matter if you've got a bracelet on there or not, because the way it works, it just goes to a pressure. And we'll put that up on the sensor. Drop it back a touch. Now let's give it another go. We're just watching the pressure go up there. And there you go, it's leveled off where it's supposed to. And now we're just waiting for the result. I'm waiting and waiting. And we'll have a result in a sec. I'll try to keep talking so it's not so quiet. So it looks like it's maintaining pressure, because in theory you should see a drop there, but there we go. That's a fail. I know that's total rubbish. That should have passed. So we'll take that out. Let's pick something else. What have we got here on my desk? So we have a 50-meter silver wave, which you might just be able to see there. So we'll give that a try. And I bet this will fail. whereas it shouldn't because it's got brand new seals on it. Okay. So there we go, we're just waiting for the pressure to go up. And look at that, it didn't even get all the way over. So one of the pressure switches in the back of the machine obviously has some sort of intermittent issue. So now we're just waiting for the result, and I bet this will be a fail. Just waiting. And waiting. And that's a pass. What do you know? But it didn't even pressurize properly. So let's try another one. So we've got a SEIKO Sea Lion. So they're one of the ones with the, it's a one-piece back. So they're a front loader. I'll give that a go. Watching the pressure go up. So there we go, got to where it's supposed to. And now we wait. And wait. I think these were actually one of the earlier air pressure testers. So there's much newer and better machines out these days, but people see these come up on eBay fairly regularly and don't know too much about them. And there's also, you can't download the manuals or anything like that for them. So I thought I'd give it a go. Most people in the industry don't like them, just because they're very iffy with what they do and don't pass. They're sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. All sorts of stuff like that. It'll give a lot of false fails, like what we saw on the SKX. So if the case is fairly rigid, so that one's a pass. So that was pass at 3 bar. There we go. So that's good. So we'll try one more. So we'll just try a 6139. So we'll just try that at 3 bar. Now this should pass at 3 bar, no problem. Just watching the pressure there. So as I was saying, if you've got a rigid crystal gasket with a fairly thick crystal, these will fail every time, even though the watch is waterproof. Because the whole theory behind it on how it works is that if it detects a drop on the crystal, then you can assume that the case is properly sealed and there's no air getting in. However, if the case doesn't drop, then you can assume that it's the same pressure inside the case as it is outside, and it'll put up a fail. So just the whole premise on how this machine works is totally flawed, which is why I don't think it's a good machine. So that one was a pass. So if you're just doing some vintage stuff that has a flexible case gasket, flexible crystal gasket, it's probably an okay machine. But on anything relatively modern, it's just not great. And not only that, it really doesn't give you any diagnostic information whatsoever, and you can only run one sort of test program on it. So on the newer machines you can run multiple test programs, and they give you a lot of information like how much crystal deflection there is and things like that. So they're just immensely more useful. So I've just taken the shroud off of the sensor there, so you can just see what's actually inside there. Now I'm actually quite happy with how this is looking, because you're going to be able to see the whole principle behind how this thing works. So I might just go in a bit closer. And like I said, I'm just trying to do this in one shot because I don't want to have to do any editing on it. If I have to do editing, it'll take 6 months. So get in a bit closer there. So you'll see the sensor here. That's it there. Now what I think those are is I think they're optical sensors. I can't actually pull the whole chamber apart to find out, but the whole premise on how it works is it sits there, the crystal drops, goes down a bit like that. Now we're only talking about a drop of about 0.2 mil or something like that. So when the shroud is on, it keeps that, it slightly pushes up the sensor, probably, I'm guessing, to about there. So that's just enough to engage the optical sensor, and then when the crystal drops, just a tiny bit, it disengages the optical sensor. So then the machine will just say it's a pass or a fail. So yeah, that's the premise of how these work. I think they're pretty limited in usefulness, and the lack of information that they give you about whatever you're testing doesn't make them particularly useful. If you're doing a certain range of things, they might be okay, but I wouldn't really rely on any of the results. I mean, it's actually having a good day today, but some days you'll get stuff which you know will pass on this machine, has passed before, and it will fail. So yeah, I probably wouldn't buy one, but if you like messing around with tools and stuff, it might be a bit of fun, and you might find it useful if you're doing a certain range of watches, but otherwise I probably wouldn't bother with it too much. The water style testers are pretty much a similar sort of spec, and they're a lot, well, these second-hand go for about the same price, but I think you get a more reliable result out of a water style tester than you will out of this. But yeah, anyway, I'll leave it there. I've given you a pretty good rundown of how these work, but yeah, I wouldn't rely on the results if you do end up getting one. I did a fair bit on this to get it working a bit better, so I ended up polishing the little finger there, which seemed to improve it. And also when I got it, this sensor plate was totally bent. It was bent sort of sideways, so I straightened that up as well. And that seemed to make it work a bit better, because it just used to fail everything before, which makes it even less useful. So yeah, that's my rundown of this and why I don't think it's a great machine. But yeah, if you do get one, have a play around with it. It'll work on certain things, but not everything. And yeah, that's about all I've got to say for it. So thanks for watching, and I'll try to put up some more videos more often, but I've really been flat out lately and just haven't had time to do too much. All right, thanks for that.